Cool. So I'm Adam. I'm at the MIT Media Lab. I'm experimenting in between neuroscience and the arts, and I come to it from a mixed background. I did some pure neuroscience research, which was into mindfulness and meditation. And then I also, before that, was in the art world, mostly in performance art. And I got really interested in how you could bring the sort of intuitive intelligence of artists into the scientists, and a lot of the self-exploration that artists do, how you could use scientific tools to do that same kind of self-exploration. So I've ended up doing a lot of work on sleep and dreams. Right now, I'm exploring a space called hypnagogia, which is this weird in-between space when you're not fully asleep and you're not fully awake. You're right in the transition into unconsciousness. And so what I do, basically, is since I'm interested in this period, because you're losing a lot of the frontal function, which controls logic, a lot of sense of time, sense of self, you're losing it, but you're not fully unconscious. You can still talk and you can still listen. So what I do is I don't let people descend into unconsciousness. I wait for the biosignals that show me they're about to, and then I interrupt them with audio. And I keep them suspended. But the interesting thing is, whatever audio I interrupt them with will enter their dreams. So if I interrupt them with the word fork, they'll dream about the word fork in this totally fluid, metaphorical, analogy-based way. It's never just a picture of a fork. One I remember was a girl's nails all turned into forks, and she was eating a salad with all her fingers like this. And because of that sort of transition from something logical or solid or an image like a fork into something metaphorical and expressive and visual, a lot of different artists have been interested in it. Poe and Dali are sort of famously interested in this in-between state. And so what I'm trying to do is use the neuroscience of sleep to create a tool with some electrical engineering and some wearable sensors and this interface that interrupts that transition into unconsciousness, and give that tool to artists and scientists and entrepreneurs who want to be more creative around a theme, who want to find that part of themselves that is more fluid, that is less logical, that's less inhibited, that loses a sense of self and a sense of place and a sense of time. Because it's really hard when you're in your awake, logical state to think in those totally fluid, uninhibited ways. But the cool thing is, everybody goes into hypnagogia, totally predictably, universally. So you can engender the state across people and insert themes for them to be disinhibited around. Which is why I think it's a science, art, tech mashup. I think there's something really fascinating about the notion that something as esoteric and metaphorical as a sense of self can literally, it disappears here at this stage of sleep. You lose a sense of self. In the same way that something like theory of mind, the way in which I can understand what you're thinking about, is something which comes online at age 3 or 4. Before that, kids just don't have it. It's a neurological function. And so what's really interesting is that in my experiments, most people, a quote is, someone said, ideas were not coming through me. Sorry, ideas were not coming from me, they were coming through me. And the quote was, I'm in a nowhere space where ideas exist. And so that's been a recurring theme, is people lose a sense of self, and they're sort of watching their brain function from far away and saying, that's a funny thought, I guess I should grab that one and use it. But this distancing is something which repeats, and is something which you hear a lot about in flow state, which you hear a lot about in artistic creation as well. Yeah. I think one of the most fun experiments I've gotten to do has been, so somebody goes into hypnagogia, and they come up and I suggest a dream, and then they go in, and I wake them up a little bit and I ask them to report, and they say, I'm walking up a volcano, and then I suggest, I think you should go inside the volcano, and then I let them fall asleep. They come up again and they say, I'm inside the volcano, there's a little house. I suggest, go in the house. They come back up, and then they describe being inside the house to me. So you can make suggestions about the next dream that someone's going to have. But the really fun thing was, as she was describing it to me, I was drawing it. And then after she woke up, I didn't show her the drawings, but I asked her to draw her experience. And then I compared those two watercolors, and they look totally similar, which is really fun because it feels kind of like an artistic mind-reading adventure. I've only done this with one person, but I'm hoping to host some kind of weird sleepovers. That's kind of where I want to go. There are two sides of it. One would be sort of the performance art sleepover musical experience. There are these sort of 8-hour electronic compositions we're experimenting with. And then the other side is, what is the generative algorithm for the transition from something logical to something quote unquote metaphorical or illogical in sleep? And is there a model for that we can figure out? So that you get to explore those two questions at the same time by pretty much just messing with people.